Some people don't just upset you, they enter your mind. You think about them after the conversation is over. Maybe you replay what they said, you question yourself, your mood changes, your energy drops, and even when they are not there anymore, they are still somehow affecting you emotionally, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, and sometimes for years. You feel everything they do, their criticism, their manipulation, their moods, their guilt, if they have any, their pressure, their emotional chaos. It's like they get inside your nervous system. Toxic people can completely destabilize you and your life, not because you are weak, but because they are a pain in the ass. But because your system is very fine-tuned, I mean. And today I want to talk about the one Bach Flower remedy I have seen help enormously with this, thank God. A natural remedy that helps toxic people slowly lose their emotional power over you. Not because it changes them, but because it changes what happens inside you. And once that starts shifting, everything changes. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a vibrational healer and I work with Bach Flower Remedies helping sensitive and self-aware people heal emotional patterns in a way that creates real lasting change in their life. So they can move on, heal trauma, build steady relationships with themselves and others, build a career or a life that aligns with who they really are. Before we go deeper into this topic, very briefly for those who are completely new here, Bach Flower Remedies are natural flower essences, and this healing system was created in the 1930s by Dr. Edward Bach. Bach Flower Remedies are considered vibrational medicine. They work on an emotional and energetic level. They help gently shift patterns like fear or emotional overwhelm, overthinking, hypersensitivity, people-pleasing, emotional exhaustion, and many other emotional states. They are very, very gentle, very accessible, and honestly, they completely changed my life. You can take them as drops under the tongue or in water. They are very easy to use, very accessible, and you can also combine different remedies together. So instead of taking something generic, you can create something that is deeply attuned to you, your emotions, your patterns, your life situation, what you are actually carrying emotionally right now. A real personalized emotional healing formula. And because the remedies are vibrational in nature, they are also incredibly gentle and safe. They do not force, they do not numb you, they do not chemically suppress your emotions. They work with your system instead of against it. And one of the reasons I love them so much is because they create change in a way that feels natural. You just slowly start noticing different reactions. More emotional stability, clarity, less emotional suffering, less looping, less heaviness. Not because you forced yourself, but because something underneath slowly started shifting. And honestly, when I discovered what these remedies could do emotionally, it completely changed the way I looked at healing. Because so many people are trying to heal through force, more discipline, more control, more modalities, more analyzes, more fighting themselves. But real healing often happens very differently. It happens when the system finally feels safe enough to stop surviving all the time. And this becomes specifically important when we talk about toxic people. Because toxic people do not only affect our thoughts, they affect the whole nervous system, your emotional state, your self-perception, your energy, your sense of safety, your relationship with yourself. Some people can literally make you abandon yourself emotionally without even realizing it. And emotionally sensitive people are especially vulnerable to this. So now let's see what we can really do to arm ourselves here and finish the unbearable impact of often unbearable people. No offense. Part 1. Why toxic people affect you so deeply. Emotionally and sensitive people are especially vulnerable to this because sensitive people often absorb everything. The mood, the tension, the criticism, the manipulation, the instability. And over time, you can slowly lose your center around these people. But I think we need to go deeper than that because very often when you are around toxic people, you become hyper aware for a reason, not because you are irrational or weak or sensitive. But because while your nervous system really understands This person is emotionally unsafe. And when someone is emotionally unsafe, you start adapting as a survival strategy. It's very clever and it's very helpful. You monitor moods, tone of voice, facial expressions, reaction, tension, emotional shifts. You think ahead constantly. What can I say safely? What should I avoid? How do I prevent conflict? How do I avoid emotional punishment? How do I keep the situation stable? Because honestly, drama is exhausting. Emotional explosions are very exhausting. Manipulation is exhausting. Guilt is exhausting. Conflict as well. And many people slowly start adjusting themselves simply because they are trying to survive emotionally. They are trying to keep the peace, trying to avoid another fight, trying to avoid emotional consequences. And this is where it becomes incredibly difficult psychologically, because somewhere inside these dynamics, you are constantly balancing between protecting yourself and not abandoning yourself. And that very thin line is incredibly hard to walk on, especially in long-term toxic dynamics. For example, many people in relationships with highly manipulative personalities constantly live in this tension of, what do I need to do to stay emotionally safe here versus what would I do if I was fully myself? And over time, that becomes incredibly exhausting because eventually even normal things stop feeling emotionally safe. Saying something honestly comes with repercussions. Having needs, oh dear God, that comes with repercussions. Expressing emotions comes with repercussions. Bringing up certain topics comes with repercussions. So your nervous system slowly learns, be careful here. And when you live like that long enough, you stop relaxing fully. You stay alert. You become emotionally strategic. You start managing yourself constantly around the other person. And I also want to clarify something important here. When I talk about toxic people, I'm not only talking about the dear narcissists, because I think the word narcissist gets tossed around a little bit too loosely online sometimes. There are real personality disorders, yes, but toxic dynamics can happen across many kinds of people. Manipulative people, emotionally unstable people, highly controlling people, chronically critical people, emotionally abusive people, people with unresolved trauma, people who unconsciously dominate emotionally. So the label is honestly less important than the effect it has on your nervous system, because usually you feel when someone makes you emotionally unsafe. You feel when you cannot fully relax around someone. You feel when you constantly need to calculate emotionally. You feel when you cannot fully be yourself without consequences. And the difficult truth is, sometimes you cannot leave these situations. Maybe it's family, a partner, work environment, co-parenting, I see a lot, financial dependence, complicated life situations. So healing is not always as simple as just cut them off. Sometimes you cannot or don't want to or don't need to go full contact immediately. And pretending that you can always just be yourself all the time around highly toxic people and highly toxic situations is just not always realistic either. So this video is not about pretending reality is simple. This is about how do you protect your own core emotionally without losing yourself completely inside these dynamics. How do you remain connected to yourself while still navigating difficult people and difficult situations? Because there is something that can begin helping with that. Not by making you cold, not by shutting your emotions down, not by making you stop caring, but by helping you become less emotionally absorbent, less emotionally invaded, less internally controlled by the chaos of other people. And that changes everything. Before we go into the one remedy that can help you, if you are listening to this right now and you do recognize yourself deeply in this pattern, constantly absorbing other people emotionally, overthinking interactions, maybe feeling very destabilized around certain personalities, losing yourself around emotionally difficult people, then this is exactly why I created my free masterclass, A New Approach to Healing. Move past what's been keeping you stuck. Because most emotionally sensitive people do not actually have a weakness problem. They have emotional survival patterns that were never truly healed. And inside the masterclass, I go much deeper into why these emotional patterns form, how they keep repeating, and how to gently heal them. How to choose the right Bach Flower remedies for your emotional patterns specifically. And if you feel like, hey, this is me and I don't really want to keep living like this anymore, you can join me there. I'll leave the link in the description and in the pinned comment. And this is where the remedy I want to talk about today becomes incredibly powerful. The remedy is called Walnut. Now, walnut is often described as a remedy for change, and yes, that is true. But honestly, I think that description is far too superficial if you really understand what this remedy is doing energetically. Because walnut is not just helping you with change, walnut protects you from outside influence during change. That is very different. So whether you are changing or not, walnut protects you from the energy of everything outside of you. So the deeper essence of walnut is energetic protection, emotional boundaries, protection from outside influence, staying connected to yourself, staying aligned with your own path. And this is exactly why it can become so powerful in toxic dynamics. Because toxic people often pull you out of yourself emotionally into fear, guilt, confusion, self-doubt, hypervigilance, emotional adaptation. So your emotional system slowly starts revolving around them. Their reactions become the center, their moods become the center, their instability. And walnut helps interrupt that process. It creates kind of an emotional separation between what is you and what is not you. Not in a cold way, not in a dissociated way, not by shutting you down emotionally, but by helping your system remain more rooted in itself. And honestly, many emotionally sensitive people have never experienced that because they are so used to merging emotionally with the environment around them, absorbing everything, feeling everything, carrying everything. Walnut creates structure around your emotional core. And that changes so much because suddenly you may still see the manipulation, but you absorb far less of it. You may still recognize the dysfunction, but it enters your nervous system less deeply. You may still need to navigate difficult situations realistically, but internally you start remaining more connected to yourself. And this is why people often experience walnut almost like, I can finally breathe emotionally again. Not because the toxic person completely changed overnight, no, but because you stop being so emotionally open to their influence. And this is also why walnut is so powerful during life transitions, because during periods of change, we are naturally more open and vulnerable to all that influence. Nothing is stable yet. So when you leave relationships, start healing, change environments, begin setting boundaries, rebuild your identity, recover from toxic dynamics, your emotional system becomes more vulnerable temporarily, and walnut helps protect your alignment during those periods as well. It helps you remain connected to your truth, your intuition, your emotional center, your own path, instead of constantly being pulled away from yourself by the emotions, opinions, chaos, or pressure of others. And honestly, that can become profoundly life-changing for emotionally sensitive people. Now I'm going to be super honest. Walnut isn't going to completely change your life. Only you can do that. And Bach Flower Remedies support you in doing that. So I also recommend not just looking at walnut. If you're in such a situation, I think it's a good starting point, but look a little further. Toxic relationships create all sorts of horrible things you can work with the help of Bach Flower Remedies. And many times it's also really necessary to do that. Just to give you an example. Creates fear? Try Mimulus. Do you feel guilty? Pine. Confusion? Serrato. Self-doubt? Larch. Hypervigilance? Aspen. No boundaries? Centauri. So the possibilities are amazing. You don't have to stay like this. And I found that the remedies often open doors we didn't know existed. Now, let's talk practically for a moment. How do you actually take walnut? Because I know many people watching this may be completely new to Bach Flower Remedies. The remedies usually come in small dropper bottles. You can buy them in your local health store, in your local pharmacy, or online. And I will leave you my affiliate link for 10% discount in the description or pinned comment. And then you can take them directly under the tongue from the stock bottle. You can also put them in a glass or a bottle of water, or you can combine them together with other remedies in a personalized mixture. I leave a video here around somewhere to help you with that. And honestly, this is one of the most beautiful things about Bach Flower Remedies. You are not approaching yourself like a diagnosis. You are approaching yourself like a human being with a unique emotional landscape. Your fears, your patterns, your wounds, your sensitivity, your life situation. And because of that, you can create combinations that are deeply personalized to you. For example, someone taking walnut might also need white chestnut for obsessive overthinking, or maybe mimulus for all the fears the situation has created, or centauri for weak boundaries when you can't say no, aspen for vague anxiety because you're always on, pine for guilt that they always make you feel, or star of Bethlehem for emotional shock. And this is why Bach Flower Remedies can become so incredibly deep emotionally. Now, the traditional dosage, it's 4 drops 4 times per day if you take them from a treatment bottle. The remedies are very gentle, so consistency is very important and it matters more than perfection. But you really need to be consistent and take them for about a month because, it's not magic. And because the remedies are also vibrational in nature, so they are extremely safe and gentle. Now, how quickly does walnut work? Well, that really depends on the person. Everyone is different. Sometimes people notice shifts surprisingly quickly, but often the deepest changes are subtle at first. You suddenly realize, I didn't obsess about that interaction as much, or I recovered faster, or I stayed calmer, or I didn't emotionally spiral here. I felt more connected to myself, or I didn't absorb everything. And honestly, those small emotional shifts become enormous over time. You stop organizing your entire emotional world around difficult people, and that changes your whole life. And if you recognize yourself deeply in this video, if you are emotionally sensitive, if you constantly absorb other people emotionally, if toxic people affect you very deeply, then I really invite you to my free masterclass. It's a new approach to healing. Move past what's been keeping you stuck. Inside the masterclass, we go deeper into these emotional patterns, why you feel stuck, and how healing actually happens, how to choose the right remedies for you personally. And you can also explore my course Bloom into Balance, where I guide you step by step through emotional healing using Bach Flower Remedies. And if you're not ready for that yet, you can also join the Remedy Circle for free. If this topic resonates with you, I have a whole playlist on emotional healing, toxic relationships, Bach Flower Remedies, trauma patterns, sensitivity, boundaries, nervous system healing, and much more, so you can continue watching after this video as well. And if this video helped you, please leave me a little comment. I read every single one of them and it means a lot to me. It also really helps my channel when you like the video, watch another video afterwards, or share this with someone who truly needs to hear this. It helps me, it helps them, and it is completely free. I loved making this video. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next one.